Donald Trump faced a difficult time at his cabinet meeting this morning, and it was quite the scene. He started off by wishing everyone a great festive season, but what holiday was he truly referencing?
I took my physical. I got all A's, everything. But they said to me, would you like to take a cognitive test? I said, is it hard? They said, yes. I said, well, I'm a very smart person. Who was the last president to take one? No president has ever agreed to take one. Because when you get into the mid-questions, meaning, 10, question number 10, 11, 12, 28, 30, they get harder and harder. And they said, would you like to do it? I said, well, no reason to do it. Nobody's ever done it. I'll do it maybe, but there's really no reason. They said, sir, the problem is this is Walter Reed Huss.
Then he got into a bizarre brag about acing a cognitive test. You have to wonder about these public moments. He claims he scored an A on a test that apparently nobody else has taken, which had everyone in the room laughing. Honestly, it is hard to believe he said that out loud. So there we are witnessing another one of his notable moments during what is shaping up to be a truly chaotic Tuesday.
And then we said, let's change the name. So we changed it back to what it was, Department of War, and Pete's doing a great job. We ended 8 wars.
It is honestly hard to believe the things Donald Trump let slip during these cabinet meetings. Just the other day, he praised Pete Hegseth, a guy we now know has been involved in some serious war crimes, saying he was doing a great job. But then he made a bizarre pitch for a Nobel Peace Prize, as if simply stopping 8 wars is enough to earn him one.
8 wars, think of that. 8 wars, but we're going to do one more, I think. I hope. Every time I end a war, they say, if President Trump ends that war, he's going to get the Nobel Prize. If I end that war. Well, he won't get it for that war, but if he ever gets it for the next war, now they're saying, if he ever ends the war with Russia and Ukraine, he's going to get the Nobel Prize. What about the other 8 wars? India, Pakistan. Think of all the wars I ended. I should get the Nobel Prize for every war, but I don't want to be greedy.
While people were bringing up the war in Ukraine, he was stuck on his own agenda, insisting he should get that prize now. The whole thing sounded pretty weak and desperate. It was a strange turn of events. Then he claimed there have been no murders in Washington, D.C. lately, which made me shake my head. Just think back to the incident over the weekend involving the National Guard and someone he granted asylum to back in April. He just brushed over the real situation. While we all know the murder rate is pretty much the same as it has always been, don't even get me started on how he described the word affordability as one massive scam. Isn't it a bit ironic that people were reminded of how he campaigned on that very idea?
Embarrassment that the city, the capital of this country, could have numbers like that. And Washington now is, no murders, no this. It's been a miracle also what happened here. And now we're in Memphis and we're going to New Orleans pretty soon. Over there, the governor called me. He'd like to have us go there. Governor Landry, great guy, great governor.
It is wild to see how he spins things and acts like it is all sunshine and rainbows. Speaking of bizarre moments, while all this was going on, the White House shared a pretty toned-down video making fun of migrants using Sabrina Carpenter's music. When Sabrina caught wind of it, she fired back, calling the video evil and disgusting. She made it clear she doesn't want her music part of any inhumane agenda. Kudos to her for standing up. Now, back to that cabinet meeting, Trump went on to claim he has slashed prescription drug prices by staggering percentages, such as 200, 300, even 800%. It is almost comical because that is just not how pricing works. He cannot just magically slash prices by that much unless the drug companies start paying him.
But our prices now for energy, but for gasoline are really low. Electricity's coming down. And when that comes down, everything comes down. But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. They say it and then they go on to the next subject. And everyone thinks, oh, they had lower prices. No. They had the worst inflation in the history of...
There is a moment when he starts getting a bit anxious. You can tell when people start asking about his health. It is kind of interesting to watch, really. Things took an interesting turn when Pete Hegseth, who is notorious for his aggressive stance on certain issues, popped into the conversation about their aggressive operations against drug traffickers. As Trump keeps talking, he has a way of reiterating his points that definitely gets attention.
To slash drug prices by 200%, 300%, 400%, 500%, 600%, 700%, 800%. Nobody's ever heard of it before because I instituted favored nations and no nation agreed to do it. And then I said to the nations, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to charge you 100% tariff.
So, you know how some folks just love to point out when I am wrong, even when I am actually right. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is boasting about sprucing up the Lincoln bedroom, throwing in new tiles for the bathroom.
And something new, like, is he in good health? Biden was great, but is Trump in good health? I sit here, I do 4 news conferences a day. I ask questions from very intelligent lunatics, you people. I give the right answers. There's never a scandal. There's never a problem. I give you answers that solve your little problems. You go back and you can't find anything, but you do stories about Biden was in wonderful health. The guy didn't do a news conference for 8 months. If I go one day, I had one day where I didn't do a news conference, there's something wrong with the president. You people are crazy. I'll let you know when there's something wrong.
It is a bit ironic, don't you think? While many Americans are struggling to make ends meet, he is focused on fancy renovations and opulent ballrooms. Then we have this moment where he throws our military leaders under the bus for decisions made during the war, claiming they have to make split-second calls.
I'll say again, we've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean because they've been poisoning the American people. And Joe Biden tried to approach it with kid gloves and allowed them to come across the border. Cartels take over community, 20 million people, hundreds of thousands of Americans poisoned. And President Trump said, no, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the fight to these designated terror organizations. And it's exactly what we're doing. So we're stopping the drugs. We're striking the boats. We're defeating narco terrorists. And we're standing.
And you may say one thing, that drugs coming in through the sea by sea are down 91%.
But let us be real. This was his operation. And now it seems everyone involved could potentially face serious consequences for their actions. We also hear from a certain Howard Lotnick, who has a reputation for not being entirely honest, talking about the deals that have gone south. It is quite a ride, isn't it? So, here is the deal.
Some people will correct me, because they always love to correct me, even though I'm right about everything. But some people like to correct me, and they say 48 years.
We used to have this setup where Japan and South Korea were expected to pay 90%, while the US only took 10%. It really did not add up, did it? But now there is a new twist. We are talking 50-50 deals instead. And on top of that, Japan and South Korea are actually building American nuclear plants. Just think about that for a second. That is a game changer. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Donald Trump has sent his guys Witolf and Kushner over to Russia. They are strolling around Moscow while also involving themselves in what is going on over there. And get this, Putin has thrown down a challenge, saying that if Europe wants to engage in war, they are ready to roll. According to him, Europeans are all about conflict and are getting in the way of peace talks involving the U.S. administration. It is Trump and Putin versus Europe, Canada, the UK, Australia. That is the current alliance. Interestingly, Trump seems to back Putin over NATO and Europe, which is quite a twist. On the flip side, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has made it clear that they are done discussing this 28-point surrender plan. And just to add to the mix, while all of this is unfolding, Sabrina Carpenter is publicly condemning the Trump administration. And Pope Leo is urging Trump against trying a military takeover in Venezuela. It is like Trump is out there claiming we need to take down Maduro because he is this big drug trafficker. Yet, it turns out that the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, is actually one of the main players in that drug scene. So, it has come to light that Donald Trump has officially set Juan Orlando Hernandez free. This guy had connections with the Sinaloa cartel under El Chapo, and he was sentenced to 45 years in prison after being federally prosecuted for bringing in over 400 tons of cocaine. It is honestly hard to believe he has thrown his support behind someone like that. For Trump, it seems being on the side of narcotics just does not raise an eyebrow. It is a wild situation. Meanwhile, during a cabinet meeting, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy chimed in, talking about something completely different. He was addressing some airport etiquette, stating, "We really need to discourage folks from wearing pajamas at airports." And then there is Trump making some bold claims about taking over companies like Intel. He said, "Hey, fix your problem." But the United States deserves 10% of your company. The chairman apparently agreed to it. And Trump proudly mentioned they had made $40 billion since that deal, all within 3 months. It is wild how he talks about it like it is just business as usual. But it really gives off these communistic vibes, only benefiting the wealthy. Here we are living under what feels like an oligarchical regime as everyday Americans seem to lose out on healthcare and other essential needs while corporations are taken over to serve the privileged few. You know, one thing we will mention, so they came to see me from Intel and they had a problem. I said, "Look, we will fix your problem, but I think the United States is entitled to 10% of your company." And the chairman looked at me and he goes, "You have a deal. Tell how much money have we made since I made that deal? It is only 40 billion. 40 billion. We made $40 billion. That was what, 3 months ago. Does anybody write about it? Nobody writes about. That is okay. It has been quite the ride, hasn't it? Your feedback is always welcome.